Good day to you, happy gamers, and welcome to this initial Remnant 2 impressions video. Now before we start and get into Remnant 2, there's a bit of a caveat here. Anyone who has never played the original game, Remnant 1, which I did back on the Xbox One, I would highly recommend you play this game, the DLCs, prior to playing this game. One, because it's absolutely worth your time and money, and because you'll get a much larger scope of the story and the lore behind the game, which is actually quite interesting when you delve deeper into it. It will also help because by the time you finish it, the developer would have patched any major concerns and issues with Remnant 2, so you'd be starting on a much better game. But just as a quickie, Remnant from the Ashes is a third-person action role-playing game released in 2019. It's set in a post-apocalyptic world invaded by creatures known as the Root. Players must explore dynamically generated worlds, scavenge for resources, and engage in intense gunfights with challenging enemies. The game features both single and cooperative modes. And to be honest, by the time I got to the game, there weren't too many players playing cooperatively anymore, which I found a little bit disappointing. This does not seem to be the case with Remnant 2. One, because it's new, but also because it's spread across so many systems and it is very popular. So where were we at? The game obviously features drop-in, drop-out co-op, shared progression. Teamwork and strategy is usually a good idea when it comes to some of the tougher boss enemies in this game. Although I have to say that so far, after my nearly 50-hour playthrough on Remnant 2, I think I have to say that generally the bosses in number 2 appear to be slightly more difficult than number 1. But I am playing the game on survival mode, which I am thinking of upping to apocalypse once I'm done, just to get a bit more of a challenge. Obviously there's a lot of loot and reward, weapons, armor, crafting materials, and some unique items when you kill these bosses. Remnant 2 takes this to a completely different level. The amount, the scope, and the ideas put into these accessories, it's quite something, to be quite honest. But let's get into Remnant 2 now. So I've spent about just under 50 hours in this game. Some of it, or most of it, spent in campaign, but also a lot of it joining games cooperatively and in adventure mode. I will say from the start that this is now my tied equal Game of the Year contender, even though we've got still quite a while to go, and that's with Dead Space Remake, but only on the PC, because I refunded my PlayStation 5 and Xbox X versions, frankly because of the performance issues in quality mode and the horrible lack of detail and low resolution in performance mode. Once I got the PC version and I went through the initial level after the crash, I was astonished at the amount of detail that I completely missed playing the other two console versions. It's not that it wasn't there, it's just that it was gone or so grayed out resolution wise that you just could not see it, and the ambience of the whole experience, it was very ruined from my point of view. So I am thankful that I went down the PC route with this game. Been a long time coming. Dying Light 2 was the first example where I saw this distinction between quality and quantity modes, and to be honest, in a lot of these games, neither one is good enough. and apart from two third-party releases, which are Dead Space on PS5, and what is the other one? Resident Evil 4 Remake, also on PS5. Both those versions were released relatively bug-free, looked quite good, and had virtually no other issues. But essentially, apart from that, I have discontinued purchasing any third-party games for both consoles until this situation is fixed, because I am just not happy with the results that the companies and the devs are producing in quality and quantity mode. Anyway, back to the game. The only reason this game does not get the Masterpiece Award in my mind are two reasons. One was I bought the Ultimate Edition. Basically, I wanted everything, the DLCs, all the extra stuff. I wanted to play it as soon as possible. I did get that, but unfortunately, the survival packs, which were to show up in your inventory on the start of the game, did not show up in my inventory until 4 days later, which is a bit of a fail. The devs have acknowledged this issue, and it has been remedied, but you don't have a time machine, and what is done is done. The biggest issue I did have, which really ticked me off, was the bug to do with dual welding. So I started as a hunter, and once I reached 10 and I had the engrams, I had beaten the main boss, it would not allow me to pick a second character, in which case this was the handler, I believe. So essentially I was stuck with the hunter for a random amount of hours until it unlocked itself, probably about 5 or 6 hours later, when killing one of the mini bosses on Nagur. Now once I did that, it wasn't an issue, but that was definitely something which really ticked me off. Now the update said that, in-game update said that basically once you reach level 10, you can dual wield with these characters as long as you have the right engram. This did not occur. I was just not able to pick a second class until it worked itself out. So apart from those two issues, I have had very little problem with the game. No crashes on PC. I am playing this on an i9 10850K with 3080 and 64 megabytes of RAM. I have seen a general improvement in performance from day one patch up until now, and generally I get between 60 and 100 FPS in most areas. There are the occasional dips, and you will see them more when you're fighting bosses with 1 or 2 players. In fact, one game with a lot on the screen at a time, but this was day or two or three after release, was me and 2 other guys fighting a boss, and it got to the point where it was 15 to 20 FPS, completely unplayable. We tried our best, we actually did quite alright, but yeah, there was no way of doing that. I then played this same boss after the other 2 guys left, and it had returned to normal speed. So I can only extrapolate from that it was something to do with the network code, or a bug in the network code, which hopefully they have fixed. So regardless, yeah, this is now my contender for Game of the Year with Dead Space Remake. And I would also add as a third place contender Diablo 4 on PC. I know, don't be shocked, but I've been quite happy playing this in single player, just doing my own thing. I've just started Act 3. I'm enjoying the story. I am impressed with the villain, probably one of the best villains that has been created for years, if not for a decade or more. So I'm looking forward to cleaning up as much of the map until I get to the final credits. And then if I feel like trying Season 1 well, I will go from there. Anyway, the game Remnant 2, the depth and detail in the character development, the design, the voice acting is really top tier. I know this is technically a AA company and a release, but they did quite well here, and you could easily compare it to a AAA release with the quality and the amount of work that they have done. While the story won't win any Oscars, it is certainly very serviceable and yeah, quite fine to follow along. The lore, the character actions are significantly improved from number one. The performance, like I said, using quality FSR on 2560 by 1440, I'm getting 60 to 100 FPS. Very occasionally I will get a dip to just below 60. So that's about it. Again, the depth to this game is quite remarkable. The secrets, I think people will be finding them even for years to come. Definitely has a huge amount of replayability if you're not only a fan of this series but a fan of soul-likes and of replaying of games like this. There is plenty for you. It's definitely a must buy from my point of view. But again, do yourself a favor and play number one. You've got nothing to lose, everything to gain when you play number one. You would have come in much more knowledgeable after finishing one and starting two. So again, Game of the Year contender, and it looks like these guys will be looking after this game for quite some time. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to these initial impressions. I will make another video on this game, but much later in time. We're talking after one or two of the DLCs are out, maybe all of them, so that I can make a closing off impressions video when the time is right. Anyway, I will catch you in the next video. If you enjoy this content and this initial impression, please subscribe if you can. Thank you very much.